If you've ever struggled with fear, doubt, or worry, and wondering what your true purpose was all about, then this podcast is for you. In this show, your host, Sylvia Worsham, will interview elite experts and ordinary people that have created extraordinary lives. So here's your host, Sylvia Worsham.
Hey, Lightbringers, it's Sylvia Worsham, your host of Release Doubt, Reveal Purpose. In this episode, we're going to be talking about, is it your evil ego identity or your sweet soul guiding you? Do you know how to spot the difference? So this is a question that always comes up from a lot of my coaching clients is, how do you know when God is prompting you to act versus when it's just a thought generated by your ego? And that's a very good question to ask. And do you know really how to spot the difference? I can give you a couple of hints when your soul is guiding you versus when your ego is guiding you. So let's dive deep into this very, very interesting topic. So let's talk about ego and soul identity, because when change hits you, these two identities are going to start battling it out, meaning you're going to start getting a lot of confusion inside your head and inside your heart. So you really want to understand the difference between the two. Ego identity is something I discovered in writing my very first book, Journey to Me, which now I'm writing the second edition to that book. It will be released in summer of 2024. So look out for that copy. Ego identity is something I found represented an identity programmed by you. Because remember, ego is your self-image. So if right now you're operating from belief systems that limit your amazing capacity as a human being, I'm going to call it the evil ego, because it's based on programming that's going to sabotage you. And let's go back to what programming is. Programming is anything you experienced as a little kid growing up, meaning your parents' example, the way they treated each other, the way they acted, from which motivation they acted from. All of that is information that your subconscious mind is going to store automatically without filter inside of you. And it's going to seem very natural and normal to you to operate from that space. So that's programming. That's also including your trauma. It's also including your significant emotional events. All of that is the programming that we're talking about now. And so that's step one is understanding what ego identity is. And usually, if you don't shift those belief systems, you are going to be operating from a space of fear and doubt and worry and anxiety. Okay, so that's what your ego identity is. On the flip side, you have the soul identity. This is the identity. This is your true identity, your authentic identity, the identity you were born with that is comprised of your spiritual gifts and the identity where your spirit lives, whoever that may be for you. For me, it's God. So God exists and guides my soul identity. And so that's definitely the difference between the two. So how do you know which one is operating? So the second thing I would look at is when you have change coming at you, you have decisions you have to make, right? So one of the things that I've always used is my instinct, my intuition. I always said that God lives in our gut. That's why they call them gut instincts, right? I call them God instincts. And it's this persistent thought, this feeling I have to act in a certain manner. And usually it is very different than the way I would normally. Let me give you an example of what I mean by that. So right after my divorce, I became a single mom. And as you guys know from various episodes, I worked with a therapist to find the one, my one soulmate, right? And I prayed a lot to God to find the person that I was meant to love for the rest of my life. So in comes 2011. I meet with friends of mine. They invite me to their party where they think I'm going to meet this wonderful friend of theirs. And I need to come to their party. But about a week before I was scheduled to leave to Houston, Pfizer Pharmaceuticals, which was my company at the time, decided that they were going to have layoffs in my division, meaning I was at risk to lose my job. Now, here I am as a single mom with a little boy, and my doubt starts to creep up. So guess what? What do you think is like starting to mess with me? My ego identity. Because in those years, guys, I wasn't a coach back then. I operated from an enormous amount of doubt. I didn't trust myself to make the right decisions. Remember, that's one of the belief systems I had. And it was driving my choice to doubt whether I needed to go or to stay and not spend money on hotels, on gas, on meals. Because once again, I have that fear of losing my job. But this persistent thought persisted and persisted and persisted. That to me is my soul identity and God's spirit guiding me to be able to answer the prayers I had given him. Because in my relationship with him, the more it deepened, the more I knew how he showed up for me. That makes any sense. So in those years, I would write in my journal pages, I would ask the question, I would pray to him out loud, and then I would get these thoughts that were so persistent. The third and final thing that gives me the indication that it's my soul identity and that's really God that's working in my favor is once that prompting gets answered by an action of mine, meaning I'm going to step into what that prompting is telling me to do, I feel peace wash over me immediately. There's like no doubt in my mind that my spirit is guiding me into my light. That makes any sense to y'all. Have you ever had a choice that you had to make, and then once you stepped in there and made the choice, you felt at ease, in peace? That is God speaking to me. And I will tell you another way that I know it's him. Once I step in there and peace washes over me, I sometimes feel the presence of the Holy Spirit as I am making the choice. And it usually starts at the crown of my head. And it's like this numbing, like sensation that comes into and centers into my heart space. And I feel kind of like a fluttering in my heart. And I know that it's God saying, this is the decision. This is an answered prayer. I've got your back. You've got this, girl. Just go do it. And the rest, leave the rest to me. So as followers of faith, this is how I know when spirit, when God is guiding me versus when my ego is guiding me. Because I'll give you another clue. God does not live in doubt. No. That's our programming guiding us. When you're wrestling with doubt too much, that's not God at all. That you're wrestling with your own self-image. So one of the things I'm going to really encourage you guys to do is to get some help via a coach or a therapist or whatever your situation is, and get out of that space of fear, because you will constantly be sabotaging yourself if you're constantly in doubt. That's your own programming. So you got to fix that programming first, which means, guys, you got to face your fears. You can't let the boogeyman always bully you around. If you let doubt bully you around, you're going to stay stuck forever. So my recommendation and my encouragement and empowerment for you is step into the fear. Face the fear with God by your side, because he's right there. Remember, guys, he can see everything. He can see the motivations of other people, like he saw the motivations of my future soulmate. He knew he was going to be at that party. And so he highly encouraged me, like persistently encouraged me to step in there and to trust him to take the reins of my life so that he could answer my prayers. Because, guys, God is where the joy is. Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode. Is it your evil ego or your sweet soul guiding you? can you spot the difference? Thank you so much for tuning in today. Next episode, guys, I'm so excited. Episode 6, I got to interview my mentor. Coach Wendy Stevens will be live with me next, and I cannot wait to share that interview with y'all. Have a wonderful week. Stay safe. Bye now.
So that's it for today's episode of Release Doubt, Reveal Purpose. Head on over to iTunes or wherever you listen and subscribe to the show. One lucky listener every single week who posts a review on iTunes will win a chance in the grand prize drawing to win a $25,000 private VIP day with Sylvia Worsham herself. Be sure to head on over to releasedoubtrevealpurposepodcast.com and pick up a free copy of Sylvia's gift and join us on the next episode.